Being itchy all the time is absolutely miserable, and the food that you're giving your dog might be the cause of their itchiness. So join me today as I talk all about food allergies in dogs. Hi, I'm Dr. Alex from Our Pets Health, helping you and your pet live a healthier, happier life. And allergies in general are a really common cause of itchiness and scratching all the time in dogs. And we can break down these allergies into three main categories. The first is a flea allergy, then we've got our environmental allergies, which is also known as atopy, and then finally we've got food allergies. And food allergies make up about 10% of dog skin allergies, so that's a pretty significant amount. And you might be surprised to hear though that the most common causes of these allergies are beef, chicken and dairy. You might have heard a lot about grains causing a real problem, and it's true they can cause an issue. Wheat, for example, is actually number 4 on the list, but in normal cases the majority of dogs are actually allergic to the protein component rather than the carbohydrate source. And if they are allergic to wheat, for example, they're not allergic to other carbohydrates, so all grains can't be lumped in together. And this is important to think about because when we think of avoiding or treating food allergies, you might be tempted to feed a hypoallergenic diet. But the reality is that hypoallergenic is pretty much just a marketing term, so it's not a protected term that means anything in particular. In some cases, it might be that there is some strange protein in there, so it might be kangaroo or crocodile, for example. It might be that it is gluten-free, marketed as grain-free, and that's why it's being called hypoallergenic. But the reality is that unless your dog is allergic to a particular grain, which again isn't that common, then grain-free isn't that beneficial, and it may actually cause some problems. Equally, feeding one of these more exotic proteins isn't less likely to result in allergies. The reason that we've got the most common problems being beef, chicken and dairy is because they are the most common ingredients in our pet foods. The other big issue with using these as a hypoallergenic diet, especially when it comes to doing a diet trial, which I'll discuss in just a minute, is that very often these diets have low levels of contamination from other diets that are manufactured in the same plant. So why it might be, for example, a kangaroo, we'll stick with that example, kangaroo diet. If there is a chicken diet made in the same plant, then there'll be certain levels of chicken contamination in that diet. So a dog who's allergic to chicken is still then going to be allergic to that kangaroo only diet. So how can we go about telling whether your dog has a food allergy or not? You might jump online and you might see there's various blood tests or fur tests where you send the sample away and you get a result back whether your dog's allergic to anything and what it is allergic to. The problem is though that these tests are completely inaccurate, they're massively unreliable, and there's no good test that we can do. I mean, some of these tests have even been shown to show that pure water or the stuffing of a soft toy is allergic to a particular food, which is clearly ridiculous. Now, it would be lovely if one of these tests did work because it would make life much easier. The reality is though that to diagnose food allergies in dogs, we need to do something called a diet trial. And what this means is you feed a diet with one protein and one carbohydrate source, ideally ones that your dog has never come across before. You need to feed these for 6 to 8 weeks at a minimum, and nothing else but plain water must pass your dog's lips, and that's where the real challenge comes in. The other difficulty is actually finding a diet that fits the bill, and there are numerous ones out there. Some are based on these more exotic meat components. Others are what we call hydrolyzed diets, where the big blocks, building blocks of that diet, so for example the chicken protein, is broken down into really small sections that the body doesn't recognize. And actually it's these hydrolyzed diets which I think are the easiest ones to feed and tend to give a more reliable, accurate result. Now, after feeding one of these diets for 6 to 8 weeks, you then need to reintroduce the old diet if there has been a positive result, because it could be that your dog's itchiness has improved because the pollens in the air have actually dropped in that time as the season changes. If when you reintroduce that diet your dog's itchiness starts up again very quickly, then you can be pretty certain that your dog does have food allergies, and then you need to look at what the ingredients in that diet is and try and find another one that doesn't involve those main protein and carbohydrate sources. But food allergies and allergies in general are only one of several different causes of itchiness in dogs, and it's really important that you get that right diagnosis so that you can treat and manage them successfully in the future. You could check out my other video on screen now which runs through all of the causes of itchiness in dogs. And until next time, I'm Dr. Alex, this is Our Pets Health. because they're family.